Hey everyone, and welcome back to IDEANTHRO Movement. On today's episode, is there a correct position for the shoulder? Today's episode is another one of those episodes where we are going to take something that we have heard someone who comes from more of an exercise background, we've heard them say something, and we're going to interpret that in a movement context. And of course, we're doing this because the ultimate goal here is to be able to move functionally, not be able to do exercises, but to be able to move practically and functionally in the real world. So I'm going to read to you a post here that I came across this morning. This is coming out of a physiotherapy practice. As always, I don't identify these people because it's not about naming and shaming or anything like that. This is just about discussing these concepts. Like so. So the post goes, such and such, such and such, such and such. Demonstrate how to set the shoulder in the correct position before performing any exercise or sport-related activity. I just want to stress the words, setting the shoulder in the correct position before performing any exercise or sport-related activity. So the point that they're making here is that there is a correct position for the shoulder to be in when doing anything exercisey or sport-related, i.e. when moving. Right? Now, the position they advocate is essentially shoulder retraction and pulling the shoulder blades down. Retraction and depression of the shoulder blades. Shoulders back and down. Might be a cue that you've heard regularly. This is super common to hear in the fitness and exercise industries. It's the sort of thing that someone might cue to you before doing a lat pull down or something like that in a bodybuilding style of context. Right? So shoulders back and down. I know they were only just barely in shot then, but it's kind of not the point here. The exact thing that they're cueing isn't the point. The point to make is that they're saying that the shoulder, which you can just sit here with your shoulders for a minute. I'm going to slightly take my head out of shot for a minute. You can move your shoulders in a whole bunch of different positions, right? And you'll probably notice that as you do, the spine is going to move at the same time as well, right? So just keep that in mind because we may track back to that in a second. So they're advocating, I'll show you this now that my shoulders are in, back and down. That's the position. You'll feel that if you play with that, it engages a lot of musculature in the upper back. Now, for something like a lat pull down, that's not necessarily a problem. There's some good reasons to think that that might be practical. In some moves in rock climbing, keeping the back of the shoulder engaged is a really sensible thing to do. But from a movement perspective, which is the ultimate goal here, remember, it makes no sense. And I can prove this with some counterexamples. Now, if they'd said in this post, we're going to show you the correct way to set the shoulder for some exercises and sport-related activities, I'd be like, no dramas. This makes sense in some context because it's one of these sensible spots that the shoulder can move into, right? But they didn't. They said any. Right? In any movement, any exercise or sport situation, any movement situation, this is what you do with your shoulder. So, pinch your shoulder blades together at the back, shoulder blades back and down, right? Now, try and throw a ball effectively. That's terrible. You want, when throwing a ball, you'll wind up, as you're getting set, you will end up engaging through the back of the shoulder. But as you release, the shoulder's going to go relaxed at the back so you can whip through and accelerate, right? Whip through and accelerate. If you get tense there, it's terrible. You lose the rotation through the spine. The whole movement goes away if you are super over tight through your back, right? It works counter to what you're trying to do at the end, which is actually to deliberately protract and have the shoulder come forward as it whips through, right? Think about this. Imagine that you're out rock climbing and you've got a big reach for a hold, right? I might need to do this side on for this to make sense. Shoulder blades back and down, big reach. That's all I've got, right? Relax them. Got another inch out of it, right? Practical, real world. Sometimes we don't want to be pinned back and down because you can still be engaged but extended, right? So I can be pinched back and down. That's my maximum reach, pinching back and down. I can come out further. I'm still engaged and on tension there, right? Particularly now if there is an actual hold there. I was kind of, not going to go into the massive mechanics of this, but I was kind of having to counter tension, like create counter tension with some other musculature to do that. But if there's a hold there, right, you can have the back of the shoulder on tension, but further extended out, right? What else can we think of here that might be an example? Okay. So both of those examples have been examples where you might release that there. Here's another one. Imagine that you're climbing, and imagine there's something that requires you to push down. You see this quite often in bouldering gyms, where you end up both hands pushing down on something and then you're tucking a foot up to get your foot next to your hand, right? In that situation, imagine I know this is a terrible shot to demonstrate this, but imagine I'm facing a wall right now. On either side of me, down by my sides, I've got my hands palm down on the wall, and so my feet are hanging down straight below me, and then I have to try and pick a foot up next to me and put that foot next to one of my hands, right? Try and do that. Just see if you can even biomechanically. Just sit on the ground or squat on the ground for a second. Tell me, biomechanically, can you even with your shoulder blades set back and down, get your hands flat on the ground? No. Now what about if you push around through the upper back a little, push down in a protracted position? Yeah, you can get your hands on the ground suddenly in that situation. Obviously, if you've got a really limited squat, that's not going to work for you. But the point being that this shoulder blade back and down situation, there's one right position to be in for everything because that's the mechanically most ideal spot for the shoulder. It's wrong when you look at it through actual practical real world movements that we have evolved to be able to do. And again, this comes back to, we're going to harp on this point over and over and over again. In my opinion, what this comes back to is a fundamental misunderstanding here that when people obtain injuries, yes, you can obtain injuries from a catastrophic event, like someone smacking you in the side of that 100-kilo footballer running into the side of your knee, right? But when we see injuries that are typically considered to be overuse injuries, it comes out of this imbalance of having done the same thing over and over and over and over again. The typical fitness industry response to this and interpretation of this is, you moved in, there's an optimal pattern for the shoulder and you weren't moving in that, so that was the problem, so let's put you in that position. We would counter by saying, yeah, there might be an optimal position for the shoulder to be in, but there's a whole bunch of acceptable positions. The problem is doing the same thing, even the optimal movement, over and over and over again. The problem's not if you were somehow outside that in the acceptable range. You get into problems for two reasons. If you're in outright dangerous ranges, like for example, football smacking your knee on the side, the knee just doesn't want to translate sideways to any massive degree, right? If you are in bad ranges of motion, truly bad ranges of motion, like knee getting whacked on the side, problem. Problem number two, doing the same thing over and over and over again, even if that thing is the most optimal range, right? It's doing the same thing over and over and over again that's the problem. If you have a varied and widely mixed up movement diet, things will go well. To give an example of this, if we take this shoulder blades back and down thing, just then think about, or just try this if you want to. Stand up, sit up, whatever you want to do. Now go shoulder blades back and down. What else happens throughout the body when you do that? The body creates some counter tension in other parts of it. You don't just pull the shoulder blades back and down and not have some sort of response elsewhere in the body. So you have to realize here that that equal and opposite reaction, essentially, is having some effect elsewhere. If you, and in this example, the shoulder blades back and down will tighten up through the spine and prevent rotation. So if you then take this like, all sports activities, let's just think this through. All sports activities should have the shoulder engaged back and down. Okay, so I'm let's think of this. I'm a basketball player, right? Now, at any moment, I might need to use my arms in a sporting activity to throw a ball, catch a ball, shoot a shot, block someone, whatever, right? That needs to happen so frequently. What, are you saying that I need to stop, like, going, oh, wait, he's going back to take a shot. I'm going to block him. Wait, just like hold your shot for a second. Shoulder blades back and down. Okay, let's go. Smack. I blocked you. That ain't going to work. So what are we saying? You need to constantly run around in a basketball game with shoulder blades back and down, because at any moment you could have to go and have to do something right. That's not going to work. Suddenly you're tense up. You're not going to run right. That concept doesn't hold. Even if it was the optimum position to block someone, which it's not, because it reduces your reach by a couple of inches. That's back and down. That is elevated, right? I've got an extra like 2 inches of reach when I elevate. That's inherently useful in a basketball game. It's inherently useful when rock climbing, right? So this concept, even if it wasn't useful, and even if backing down was the right position for all movements, which it isn't, but even if it was the right practical and useful position, it doesn't work in contexts where you need to rapidly use it. Because what, you're going to suddenly set? No, you're not going to suddenly set, so you have to run around the whole time holding that tension. You try and run around with your shoulder blades back and down, right? You're going to find you don't have the rotation through the thoracic spine, so you're going to pick it up elsewhere. You're probably going to pick it up through the thoracolumbar junction, right, at the bottom of the thoracic spine, which is probably going to light up the quadratus lumborum and the erector spinae in your lower back, and suddenly you're going to have lower back tightness, and a whole bunch of stuff can spiral from there. It doesn't work, right? The movement perspective is there are a lot of positions that it is acceptable for us to get into. In any one particular case, one of them might be the most optimal one, but there's a whole bunch of positions that we might want to be in at any given time. And it is through collectively across our life, or across our day, across our week, across our month, across our life, our need or our desire to get a wide variety of those so we are nicely balanced out, just as our ancestors would have. Right? Okie dokie. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked what we talked about here on IDEANTHRO Movement, please give us a like or a subscribe. If you want to find out more about what it is that we do at IDEANTHRO Movement, you can go to ideanthro.com/movement. If you would like to come and train with us at our real world facility in Oxley, you want to join up, but maybe you want to give it a little go first, ideanthro.com/free-trial. And if you just want to get in touch, contribute to this discussion, ideanthro.com/connect. Okie dokie, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.